Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast, where we break down everything short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, and building a profitable hospitality business. Whether you're a host, investor, or property manager, we share real strategies, real insights, and real experiences to help you scale smarter and grow faster. Let's dive in.
What up, party people in the place to be? My name is Matt Codd, and I'm here with another episode of the Co-Host Bros Podcast. I'm kicking it only with my one and only Austin Spitz. And today we're hanging out with Jesse and JT Nacassio, who've scaled to almost 102 properties, and they own over 11 of them. And they're going to tell you how they did this. And this is going to be our first tag team, right, Austin? This is our first double up.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
We're honored.
For sure, man. I'm super excited to have you guys on here, a little bit more about your journey. First episode, we've had more than one person interview, so I think that's pretty cool. I think, how many episodes are we at now, Matt?
This will be 73.
I just can't believe, out of 73 episodes, it's always been like just one yes, so it's kind of cool. We got two today, so first time. Sure. Well,
nice.
Very
honored to be the first multiple people here. So.
Yeah, for sure. Let's jump into it. If you guys can, why don't you give us a quick background on how you kind of got into the short-term rental space and what you guys are up to today?
Sure. So currently we own and manage, as Matt said, 102 Airbnbs. We own 11 of them, and the short story is a little over 2 years ago is when my younger brother, which is Jesse, approached me and said we should get into short-term rentals. Before then, we have long-term rentals. We did some fix and flips, non-performing notes. Um, that was like, I think our first purchase was 2012. And Jesse was actually the one that told me we need to get into short-term rentals, and honestly had to force me into it because I was like, I don't know if I want to be in that space. um, Fast forward, we did meet a mentor that's now a good friend of ours. We've done several deals with him, and I'm sure Jesse will tell his side of the story on why he wanted to do short-term rentals. But that's how we began, basically. So, Jesse, you want to maybe share yours?
Basically, I had to convince JT because he was a little skeptical about Airbnbs and short-term rentals. We were doing long-term rentals for such a long time, from 2012 to 2022. And it was actually a friend of mine who moved to Seattle. We're based in California. He moved there to work for Amazon, and he had a huge paycheck. That's why he moved there, and he was making upwards $200-something thousand, right? But when I met up with him, he visited California. He was like, "Oh, I quit Amazon already," and I was like, "Why would you quit that way? You just moved there for that job." And he was like, "Oh, I'm doing Airbnbs now," and that's how that spark in my head. It's just light bulb moment. I was like, I gotta look into that. So that's when I started my research, and then that the rest was history. And I was able to convince JT to start, and luckily he said yes. We were always 50-50 together with business, which is, I think it's kind of rare for brothers or like sisters sometimes, but we do everything together. So we have several businesses together, and 50-50. So now you get both of us.
That's awesome, man. I love it. So where did you start hosting? Did you purchase a property first? Did you start managing first? Because based on Matt's intro, it sounds like you have some owned and then quite a few managed as well. How did that first deal look that got you into this game?
Yeah, so actually we started with Airbnb arbitrage. So for those of you who don't know, that's when you rent a property and you sublease it through Airbnb. That's how it started, because the mentor that we found during that time when we were starting, he was doing arbitrage, and he had like 23 properties he was arbitraging. And so essentially that's where we started. And we had like 3 arbitrages in the span of 4 months when we started. And eventually moved into co-hosting and then buying more properties, and eventually those arbitrage properties we ended up buying from the landlord, uh, made enough money, and then some of our savings, and just bought those properties, and now we own all of them, and we don't have any arbitrage anymore. More so just owning properties now and co-hosting. So
So, do you guys think that? Do you think the arbitrage was a good model, or do you think it was just like the push you needed to jump into it?
Uh, I would say the arbitrage model. I think for us personally, we didn't really get into arbitrage to scale arbitrage. We just wanted to try Airbnb as opposed to converting our long term. Obviously, we've converted a few now. Not saying I'm not a fan of arbitrage. We started there. Our mentor started there. He owns multiple properties now as well, obviously. But I think it's a cash flow play. Arbitrage. I wouldn't say I'm too much of a fan of it. Not saying it's the wrong model. I think nothing beats buying and owning, and I think co-hosting is a lot more risk free than arbitrage. Right? We just started that way, and I don't want to get hate. I know there's a lot of arbitrage owners out there. I'm not saying it's not a good model at all. I know a couple people that are successful with it. It's just not something that we went into and like, oh, I want to have 100 arbitrages. It was always the goal of owning more for us personally. So
So you
that's
yeah,
don't
my
I think
take.
it.
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I think in 2025, it's still doable, but you have to be really careful choosing the property, and you have to really do your due diligence. I still know a lot of people who are still doing arbitrage to this date, and it's kind of like a hit or miss, right? It's very risky now in 2025, but it's still something that you can definitely pull off if you find the right property.
Yeah, for sure. So are you guys still doing are you guys still doing arbitrage on some of these properties? You said you bought some of them from the people you're arbitraging. Do you still do the arbitrage model, or are you guys out of the arbitrage game?
No, we don't do arbitrage anymore. We own all our properties. Out of those three arbitrage, we bought two of them. The other one we exited out on, and we just purchased another property. No, we don't do arbitrage anymore. We actually did arbitrage only for a few months, and then we ended up buying those properties because that's our main goal, anyways. So it was just more for us to figure out, learn how the Airbnb and short-term rental works. Actually, that was our main goal. It wasn't really to have multiple arbitrages. So that's how we just got started. But no, we have zero arbitrages. We own all our properties now.
That makes sense. I mean, so basically, you spent 10 grand to learn, and
Yeah,
then made money off of it, and then did it a couple more times until you felt confident enough to be able to proceed with what you were doing. That's wild.
exactly.
So how many different markets do you guys? Are you still just doing co-host, or are you doing full management? Like, are you collecting funds, or are you just co-hosting?
Right now, we just co-host. It's just easier on our accounting books, but we are in a lot of markets. Um, Properties we own here in California. We own in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Our lake houses are in Lake Palestine. We have Dallas, Texas, Greenville, Texas. Um, those are the market that we own. Management, we're all over. Bill didn't like that in the beginning, but when he saw that we are still in the top 1% of our market, right? So we're on Ithaca, New York, near Cornell, Boulder, Colorado. We have a few in Las Vegas, a few in Nashville, a lot here in California. Obviously, we're from here in SoCal, a few in North Cal. Sure, I'm probably missing some. Houston, Texas, uh, the Poconos. A little bit harder to manage there, so we're very picky now. I'm not sure if I want any other Poconos management, but yeah, we're basically in a lot of markets, Matt.
Damn, y'all just took what you can get, huh?
I
Our main, because we personally, even with long term, we've always bought all over the US. So I think we're more comfortable. Our guidelines was more on like a property needs to be making certain revenue before we manage it, because it takes the same amount of work to manage a property making 50,000 and a property making 250,000. So that's our main criteria. We love building teams. So even in a market that we're not in, if we're able to close something there, we build our good boots on the ground there. I think that's one of our strengths. The previous company, me and my brother exited out on, we had 500 employees in the Philippines. So I guess one of our strength is actually building teams. So
Did you want to add on that, Jesse?
Yeah. So just like what JT said, I think building teams is, if you can pull it off. I wouldn't suggest being in so many different markets
right,
if you don't have the foundation for it. So if you know how to build a team, obviously us, we have 13 employees now under us, aside from the boots on the ground. But if you can build a really good boots in the ground team in any market that you're into, make sure that you can pull that off first before you take on, managing a property in that market, because also you want to build your branding. You don't want to have a bad reputation, right? So for me and JT, it's our biggest strength, I would say, is building our team. And we have 13 SDR super VAs ourselves, in our company, and that's how we're able to kind of pull that off.
That's crazy. So, um, just for footnotes, I have a relative that has a gigantic house in Ramona. Maybe we'll chat offline about that. I don't think the
of course.
comps are right, personally. Um, but so for people who are trying to like grow their co-hosting business, like how did you guys get leads, get clients? Like what would you say was like the easiest way for people to do? I mean, yeah, at this point it's probably word of mouth, right?
Yeah,
But in the
yeah.
beginning it wasn't word of mouth. So what did you do and how can other people replicate that to help them get to where you are?
Yeah. The beginning, we actually did a lot of work. One of the things that we did was obviously provide value in all the Facebook groups, message, right? Just value, nothing salesy. We reach out to we filter the Zillow long term rentals that say they've been sitting there for 60 days or more, and it's fully furnished. We kind of like make reports and say, hey, we've noticed your property's been sitting for 2 months, and the long-term rental is this much. Do you know that you can actually make this much in short-term rental conservatively? If you want to discuss it further, right? Maybe talk with us, right? That's how we actually started a lot of those. And another thing, and this is our advice when you're starting a co-hosting company or business, is that that contract that you have, right, that's very dynamic, right? I think in the beginning, one of the things that we did was, like, for example, this one host, and we already knew this property was going to make 250K a year, right? And they got it for so cheap, and they got it, like, I think their mortgage is like 2,600 a month. So we already knew that it was gonna make a lot of money, but the host was like, "Hey, I'm not sure how accurate that short-term rental projections are." So what we did was like, "How about this? We'll bake into the contract that if we make 2,600, actually $3,000 or less, we don't take any management fee, which means we work free for that month, as just as a guarantee to you." Well, obviously, that's not going to happen. Never happens because that property is going to make 250K. That same host, now we have 5 properties in management. We just had that entryway. Obviously, we're not as loose now with our portfolio. We're more picky. But in the beginning, right, you can be very dynamic with your contract, and that's one of the creative ways that we close that particular client.
I like that. I think that's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people just talk about the same thing. So you guys going after those people with the houses on the market and things like that, that's pretty smart. So are you like offering like realtors in the area comp sets and things like that at the time? Is that what you were guys trying to do? Like,
Yeah,
give them
just free
projections?
value. Yeah, just free value. We had a couple VAs that we hired at the time, just doing lead generation for us, and so they would be running the comps. We'd be using a program, and then they would send that to as an email to, for example, just like what JT said, on Zillow. There would be some houses that are for rent for like 90 days, and they're not getting rented out. Then we would propose a plan to do short-term rentals, and this is how much they would be making, right, if they choose to go with us. That's what's one thing. Majority of the time we were on Facebook, just providing free value, just commenting on questions there, as a top 1% host, right? And then in 2023, I'm pretty sure this is not going to work anymore, but we used to go on Airbnb and
Oh yeah,
message uh new hosts, or like hosts with like less than 4.5 stars, and say, hey, we're this and that, we can, this is how we can help you out, this is how this is the projected revenue we can see for your property. And then most of the time they would respond, but now it only takes one spam report, and your
yeah.
account is
We used
gone,
to work
so we
back
can't do
then.
that anymore. But in the
Oh,
beginning we did that, and we were able to close a few co-hosts doing that.
yeah, we closed a few there.
Yeah.
It used obviously they're more strict now with the off-platform policy and all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's correct, Jesse. We did that as well.
Yeah.
So what services do you guys provide if you guys are doing co-hosting? Are you like every pretty much everything under the sun, or like are you guys just doing messaging? Are you guys doing pretty much almost full service besides collecting the funds? I guess what does it look like for you guys if someone was to work with y'all?
So it's a full-on service with us. We don't do like parts of it, just because we want full control so that we can maximize the revenue. And we have, with a big team that we actually have 24/7 guest support and host support. So a host can ask us questions at 3 a.m. in the morning, and same with the guests. But we offer everything from listing optimization, creating the listing, filing claims, coordinating with cleaners, coordinating with maintenance, everything. It's a full on management for us. The only thing that we don't do, obviously, like in Airbnb, that's automatic, right? The co-host. And then for Verbo or other platforms or direct booking, we just have to bill them at the end of the month. But for the most part, they're like fully hands off. Even the cleaner payment, you can automate that. So
Okay,
Have you guys
gotcha.
thought of moving to full management model, or you just like the co-hosting model better?
we've actually thought about that. I think what's unique about us is because we're on different markets, the regulations would probably be like there's some markets where you have to have a license. So that's probably why we haven't gotten into that model. I think that's a better model, honestly. It's just easier on the accounting with co hosts, but I think because we are all over the United States, that's going to be a little bit of a trickier transition, but we are looking into it.
Yeah, it seems like if you set up everything co-hosting and then you're in all these said markets that you mentioned, it seemed like one of them was like New York, for example, and stuff like that with and California. So like with stricter regulations and stuff like that in place, like you'd have to be some places would allow you to just be a PM, and then some states and cities would have different hoops that
Right.
you have to jump through. So it's almost like I don't even know, like that sounds like so much more work to just and then you got to switch and
Exactly.
pivot your entire business, 100 listings and
Yeah.
figure out and then
Right.
sell all those people and say, hey, we're going to flip flop everything and we're
Exactly.
going to collect the money now. And all these people got used to it one way. So it almost sounds like for you, just stay the course and stick to co hosting. But I mean, every situation is different, right? So I'm sure you guys obviously have thought about that.
You hit that on the nail, Austin. Right. That's just the complexity of it, and it's just about obviously you probably will make a little bit more on the management side, but there's also a lot of trust accounting on that one to be in regulation, right? You gotta have escrow funds, you know, especially on a bigger portfolio. So you hit that right on the nail, Austin.
So I'll throw this one at Jesse. So like do you guys in the co-hosting model obviously the owner owns the account, so like do you have, let's say you have for easy math 100 different owners, do you have 100 different owners watching the messages throughout the guest stay?
They It really depends on the owner. Majority of the owners that we're working with, thankfully, are not micromanagers, so they don't necessarily look at the messages, or they don't ask too many questions. But there are some outliers out there who are micromanaging on a daily basis. Where, hey, did you guys? It's only been 3 minutes, right? But how come you guys haven't responded to this? In which case, we just have to do what we have to do, right? We just have to constantly communicate with that owner. But for majority of the owners that we're working with, they're very happy, and they fully trust us to be there 24/7 for them and do full service for them. Uh, some of those hosts that are difficult, we had to really cut off because it's very taxing for the team. And at the end of the day, we want both sides to be happy, right? We want our team to be happy. We want the hosts to be happy as well. If that can't be had, if it's not a good synergy, then we have to let go of that host, even if it's a high paying property.
Yeah, I think it depends on whichever way you spin it. If you do property management, there's pros and cons to that too. And then there's pros and cons to co-hosting. So you have to choose your hard and you have to choose your battle. And for me, the reason I bring that
Yeah.
up is just because to me, that was the hard when I had a co-hosting business before I switched to property management was like, in any way I could set it up, the original Airbnb account, not to give them access to it. That's my goal in the beginning, just because the thing is like, no matter how cool they are, if they have that Airbnb app on their phone and they see that notification, if they're not like, an investor and they don't want any part of it, then maybe they're not going to care. But like if it's their second home or something along that lines, it just brings a whole other bag of problems. So like but we could also spin it like there's some things that could come up in regards to property management where you're there, there's added liability and added accounting, and it is a lot more involved in it, that we could spin it that way to show like, okay, this is just harder from a property management perspective. The only other thing I would say with co-hosting, I'm curious how you guys do this at 100 properties, and maybe it's just part of it. How do you set up for somebody listening that wants to do co-hosting? How do you set up the way that you invoice clients? Is it just like, will you take the money through Airbnb as a co-host payment so you get paid directly? Or are you invoicing people waiting to get reimbursed thousands of dollars, like kind of like more like a service business? Does that make sense? Like how do you do invoicing for owners?
So we do that automatically in Airbnb, less headache, right? We only invoice them if it's a direct booking or verbal, which is not a lot. Certain markets, some more verbal bookings, but for the most part, everything is collected automatically through Airbnb. Obviously, when I think when we started, that wasn't actually available yet. But then that's a good when they did that co-host payout that you can do the co-host payout. Then that's obviously a big help for us on the co-hosting side. But yeah, to your point, Austin, right? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer between co-hosting and management. I think you can be successful in both. It's just a matter of preference and like what your goals are. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's yeah. I don't know. What you got, Matt?
My concern is at scale. So like, since because you guys are at scale, so I mean, and I knew Austin when he was doing the co-host, and I could see the issues that he was having. But like, so for instance, the cleanings, right? You guys coordinate the cleaning, you guys pay the cleaner, right? So does Airbnb allow you? I don't know, I'm not familiar. I do full property management, but does Airbnb allow you to collect the cleaning fee?
Yes, you can actually set it up where you get the cleaning fee. Either the co-host or the host gets the cleaning fee.
Can
And
you
that
can you
particular one on go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead,
my
Austin.
bad. No, I was going to say, can you set it? Because when I did it, I don't think it was an option. If you, because you could definitely mitigate the amount of money that you have to wait to be reimbursed at the end of the month if you can on Airbnb have the cleaning fee sent to you as well as your co-host payment from that booking. Because if most, like you're saying, in most markets, for the most part, bookings are majority coming from Airbnb. So if you can get most of the money coming from Airbnb, then it's not as bad at the end of the month. When you're because the way I had it set up, I was waiting for everything to be reimbursed, thousands of dollars, right?
Oh no,
So yeah,
no,
yeah, and then I
we
got at
don't do that.
scale. I got at scale, and then it was like
Yeah,
I wasn't having things transferred from the OTA, so it was like 20, $30,000, 40, whatever it was at
yeah,
the end of the month. I need to be
can be a lot,
reimbursed back plus my services. So
right?
that's why I was a pain in the ass. But if most of your bookings are coming from Airbnb, and you collect the cleaning fee that way, and you can collect your co-host payment, then you're just kind of just waiting to be reimbursed for any maintenance related things that maybe you take on or and VRBO, right? So can you
Yeah,
do that? Can you do the cleaning fee and the co-host fee?
yes, you can actually.
Oh, nice.
Definitely
Okay.
can in Airbnb. Also, even if we can't, even on the verbal side, we normally try to do it internal, where there's just a card on file, and then it automatically pays the cleaner. So we're pretty much not reimbursing any cleaning at this point. Obviously, unless it's our property, but 100% of the cleanings we don't front that, if that makes sense.
So, are you guys managing like 90 credit cards? Like, what do you do if somebody's maintenance? Like, like for instance, like I've talked to another guy. He had like 60 properties, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I just manage all the credit cards. I have them all on Amazon, and they have the owner's name on them." And I'm like, "That's wild, dude." Like, so like, how are you managing maintenance and things like that?
So for main, we do have a big team. Number one, that's why we're able to actually do that. And it's not necessarily like, for example, like one host that we work with. There's only one credit card, which I don't recommend, but that's what they do on their seven properties. So it's just one card for that seven properties. So it's not like we have 100. Oh well, technically 90 plus co-hosts that we're managing 90 credit cards, and most of the cards are already set to auto pay anyways. So it's not like we have to, like normally we set that in the beginning, like if it's a cleaning, like which credit card do you want, so that it's auto paid. So we don't really have to like check on that unless it declines. So most of the time we automate all those credit cards and we don't have to be like checking them every single time.
Mm.
And by the
So you're
way,
s-
some hosts are okay with them being invoiced at the end of the month by the cleaner directly. So in which case it makes things much easier for us, right? So there is an expectation there sometimes where we talk to the host, say, "Hey, are you okay if the cleaner that we're working with for a long time invoices you at the end of the month for the number of cleanings? Say there's 4 or 5 cleanings per month, and you only have to pay that once a month directly, so that way we don't have to handle any of those things financially, and you know exactly what you're paying." And most hosts are more than willing to do that if that's the only responsibility they have is finances,
Right.
expenses. Yeah.
that's pretty smart. So I see what you're saying is how it's how there's pros and cons. Like, so I run full property management, so I can, mark up the cleaning fee or whatnot and things like that. But you couldn't on your side, but you're not having a bunch of outstanding invoices sitting out there, but just for like Verbo direct bookings. Are you guys on booking.com as well?
We are not.
No.
No.
That's a rough one.
Yeah.
I know, right? I was just gonna say, man,
Not a good platform. So.
we've
Or,
tried.
or BDC guys, but yeah, no.
It's a little bit better than it used to be because now they accept payments. Booking accepts payments for U.S. properties, so it makes it a lot easier as opposed to somebody booking and you're like, "Hey, wait, how do I get my money?"
Right. Maybe I pick your
So
brains on that off cam at booking.com. Because when we did it, it was just so hard. If they're a
it
little
is
bit
hard.
better, yeah,
Well, it depends on your PMS now. If you, I mean, like Hospitable has direct API connection now, so you can set up a
we use hospital.
booking.com. You can set up a booking.com listing in Hospitable in like 10 minutes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I
Then you
gotta
just got to
pick
go
your
and do a
brains
little
off
edit.
cam on that, Matt. Maybe we can consider that again. But yeah, in the beginning, it was like, no.
Yeah,
Because it was like,
it's so clunky. So how? So is all your whole team? So how many people are in your team?
Right now we have 13 VAs. So 9 of those are doing operations for us. So at all times we have at least four to five people in the morning, and then 3 to 4 people at night clocked in. And then we have a social media VA, we have a bookkeeping VA, we have a funnels VA. So basically we're kind of like a well-oiled machine, and JT and I are 95% removed from working in the business at this point. We're not involved in um, the day-to-day stuff anymore, and we're just on focusing on the scaling part of the business.
That's killer. So all your VAs are all doing like guest communication stuff.
Yes, we don't use AI or Host Buddy. The only AI we use is Hospitable, which you still have to press send,
Yeah,
really.
you have to push the
So we,
button.
we
Yeah.
have actual people 24/7 responding.
right.
Why don't you use AI? Out of curiosity.
We still love the human touch, really. And the way we train our VAs, they're really good at guest comms, and we have an awesome operations manager who's kind of overseeing everything. So if anything is not up to par with the guest comms, she goes in there and kind of corrects the other ops people. But we still prefer the human touch of that messaging.
Yeah, just to add to that, we've had so many one-star turned five-star reviews because at 2 a.m. our VAs are actually calling and saying, "Hey, we're sorry about that, but you know what? We'll send someone right away in the morning." It's just different on the human touch. Like someone is calling you at 2 a.m. when you have a problem, right? It's just different, right? The guest just feels like they are taken care of. Not opposed to AI, by the way, right? We have a lot of hosts that use AI, like Host Buddy AI is one of them. We actually had a meeting with their CEO. It's pretty cool. So there is a use case for it. It's just for us because we do have a big team. We're not considering it at the moment. Maybe in the future we'll see. So we're not against AI by any means.
See, onboarding your properties. So let's talk about that. Since you went so remote, like everything's everywhere from you, except even in California, I'm assuming. So when you went to go onboard a property, you need all that property information. How did you guys do that? Did you pay somebody, or you had them go take care of it, or how did you handle that situation?
Yeah, so our VAs have an onboarding checklist, and that's kind of like an ongoing thing that we build to make it better and better and better. So now I think we are pretty much dialed in on the checklist, and that checklist has a lot to do with obviously knowing the property, knowing the market, knowing all the information that we need to be able to build that listing, and also before we even before we even take on a new market, we have to make sure we can build a boots in the ground team. So we start by looking for a cleaner that specializes in Airbnb, a maintenance guy that specializes in Airbnbs. If we can't build that, then we can't take on that market. But if we can build the boots in the ground team, the rest of the back end stuff is easy because we have an onboarding checklist that's pretty robust that we use all the time.
Actually, one of our VAs did that for us. There's a Google form that we did. It's almost like mimicking from start to finish what Airbnb is actually going to ask. So normally the host answers that part. It takes literally 5-10 minutes to like click what amenities that those have, and that gives us like the whole, like, there's no back and forth. Oh, what amenities is this again during listing, right? That you know avoids having to go back and forth. So one of our VAs actually did that for us. So that's one of the checklists that we do when it comes to onboarding.
So you don't have somebody physically go there to like collect, serial numbers of appliances or anything like that, or
Our boots on the ground does that. Most of the time now, though, because we are in markets, we normally have, like, when we get in a new client, we normally have a plug and play boots in the ground now. We're still happy to go into a new market, but it has to be worth our time to get into a new market now. But it's fun. We love getting into a new market because one of the things that we love, because we're on buy mode, is now our market range is so big at this point that if we buy a certain market, we have a plug and play team there. So I'm like looking at properties to buy. We're in different states with already built boots in the ground because of our co-hosting business. So we just have a wider range of buy box, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a certain like there's a certain to get into like a new market, it has to be something that you're able to scale in, because if you just take one or two properties in, you're going to struggle and you're going to lose money along the way trying to figuring out everything that you don't know. So I think hosts make a big mistake of trying to take, oh, this property is going to do 150,000 and I can manage it in this market over here. Yeah, maybe,
Right.
until you run into a problem and you don't know how the market works and you don't know, the seasonality of it. So I feel like, yeah, it's okay to be in multiple markets, but if you're going to be in multiple markets, like, be able to get, 5 to 10 listings ideally in those markets, to like where you guys are saying, like, we have boots on the ground, we have cleaners, we know who to reach out to when these things happen, because and it's probably hard. I feel like it's really hard to sell somebody on, why would I let you manage my house, house that's supposed to be 200,000, where you don't have any other properties here. You don't have a cleaner yet. You're gonna wait and go get a cleaner once you sign me. You don't have all this stuff. So yeah, I think you guys said that really well. But I do want to change the subject real quick. So you guys are brothers. I want to talk about, uh, maybe the first thing I want to discuss is, like, do you guys have a certain skill set that complements the other one? Like, I feel like that's one of the key components of being successful in business, and I think you guys are definitely a testament of being successful in business. But what does that look like on like the day to day roles? And like, Jesse, what is your skill set? And JT, what is your skill set? And how do they complement each other? And tell me a little bit about that. I'll let you go for it, Jesse.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we complement each other very, very well.
Right.
Uh, because we have completely different personalities. JT's a lot more OCD than I am. I'm more of like relaxed, easygoing, and I take care of a lot of the back end stuff, a lot of the technical side of things. So I built 5 different websites for us, right? For example, I'm building our CRM, so I'm building all the back end stuff, and JT is able to work on the front end stuff and like talking to clients, anything that we need today, right? Presently, if he needs to call someone, like he's the one who does that. And so we really complement each other, and that's not something that we talked about really. Just being brothers, we knew what our strengths and weaknesses are, and then we were like, I think we can do this, right? And it didn't start with real estate, right? It started with other businesses as well. There's only the two of us. There's only two of us brothers, and thankfully we were able to kind of collectively just knew that we can start a business together, and it's something that we can do for the rest of our lives. And it's something that's not easy for a lot of siblings, I would say, but it can be done really if you guys are in sync. And I think, yeah, that's
Yeah, I feel like
I
more
don't know, JT
often,
can
I feel
agree.
like more often than not, it doesn't work out. So that's really a good testament that you guys have that skill set that complements each other. What do you think, JT? Do you agree? He may disagree with you. I don't know.
Yeah, I know you may disagree.
I actually agree a lot with Jesse. Being the older brother, right? Jesse being 5 years older than Jesse, I can honestly say, right? I rely on him on a lot of stuff. That's my weaknesses, right? So I know his strengths pretty well. I know when it comes to his strength, he's just the best at it. That's why, like, even with decision making, because I'm OCD and he's relaxed, I think we get to tend to like in the middle when handling the problems, right? We balance each other out that way as well, right? I'm more like OCD and nitpicky, and then he's more on the relaxed side. And that also translates to like handling employees, right? We are able to balance each other out that way. In that way, like, we have like better decision making when we're trying to like figure out what to do on certain situations. So it's just like really like knowing your strengths and your weaknesses and complementing each other.
Love that.
Right.
Yeah, I like it. That's like me and my wife. Like I do the back end stuff, and she talks to the people. Like I don't want to talk to the people. I just want to get it done.
Right.
Um, you know, you're kind of like you're a maker and you're a doer. So, um, so you said you have 14. You said 14 VAs. Is that what it
We
was?
have 13 VAs right now.
13.
Yep.
Okay, well we're getting a fourth one soon. I'm getting a 14th one soon. Um, so if I were to look for a VA, and this will segue into the fact that you guys do find VAs for co-hosts and things like that. But if I was to look for a VA, like what would be the best way to do it, and what would be the best way to like find the VA that's right for me? Like if I were to just go do it myself.
Right. If you were to do it yourself, I would say it's very, very hard. Um, because there's a lot of negative connotation with VAs, because a lot of people get burnt because they go into these websites like onlinejobs.ph, and uh, no offense, there's a lot of really good VAs there as well, but there's actually a lot of not so good VAs there, also, where they kind of blow up their resumes and they overcharge you. It's like, oh, my starting is $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month, and I can do this and this and this, and then you hire that person, all of a sudden they don't have that skill set, right? And you're relying on the resume to be 100% honest, and that's how people get burnt, or there's just no loyalty there. So if you have an actual if you have an actual source of VA where they vet the VA, they pre-screen the VA, and then they train the VA specifically for the short-term rental space, which is something that we do, I think that's your best bet into your highest chances of a successful virtual assistant. And another thing is, you don't want the VA to be transactional. You want the VA to be part of your team. So you want to make them feel that they are growing. The growth of your company is the growth of that VA, and you treat them as a regular employee instead of a virtual assistant, if that makes sense. So that's how we've always gone with our VAs, and some of our VAs have been with us for 6 years now. The last company we exited out on, we had 500 employees in the Philippines, so we know how to treat them in a way where they can stay with us for a long term, because we treat them as regular employees. But yeah, your best bet is to actually be able to to have someone who can actually source that for you. And luckily, me and JT were Filipino, so we could talk to them in their native language, and we know which school they came from. We know which province they came from. I lived in the Philippines for 20 years, and JT lived in the Philippines for more than 20 years, so we know their culture. We know how to properly vet them for ourselves, for our VAs, not even for other clients, but yeah, for other clients, when we do find VAs for other clients, that's the sourcing process, right? JT and I are very heavily involved as far as talking to the VAs in their native language first, and knowing where they come from and what culture they're in, to make sure that they're fit for the short-term rental industry.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of money for them too. So like for a lot of them, it's a good amount of money, right? So I agree with you, especially with like in leadership in general. Just talking to somebody like they're a body or
Yeah,
just a virtual assistant, right? I mean, where I'm
Right.
from, we call it a body, but it's not. If you don't talk to them like an employee and treat them like a person, then
Yeah.
it's probably pretty important. I mean,
100%.
so
Yeah. So what does it look like? So let's say I need a VA. I'm starting my co-hosting business. I'm at 10 properties. I need a VA. I give you guys a call. You guys help me find somebody, right? So you guys are going to help me find somebody that I need help with guest comms and getting some of the day-to-day stuff, because I'm too much in the weeds and I need to get out of my business. You're going to help me find someone, right? So what does that look like for me? So somebody's listening and they need a VA. So they're going to call Jesse and JT. What does it look like for me? You guys help me find the VA, put them on, and then are they a part of your company? How does the ongoing support work? Do you just train them and onboard them and then it's over, or do you guys do more of like, hey, we will still be a point of contact? Say, and you guys make mistakes, right? Let's just be real. Like you guys say, you're the best at vetting the VAs and stuff like that. How does that? So let's say one slips through the crack, comes to me, doesn't work. Are you guys still the point of contact that you guys would train them, or how does that work?
A great
Yes.
question, Austin.
Yeah,
So,
JT, go ahead.
great question. So, that one unique thing about us is that it's a partnership with SDR Super VA. So when we actually on well, number one, right, like our vetting process, just to give you like a summary of it, is like they go to like two or three interviews. And normally, let's say our average is like if we interview 10 VAs, probably three passes the interview. And then from then they go to our trainings, and obviously that's with all the tech stacks that's needed with short-term rentals, and they pass through assessments, and then from there or even less before they actually get to shadow our system for a whole week, meaning they get to like see our VAs live, deal with problems, talk with hosts, talk with guests, right? Before we certify them to actually be onboarded to someone else. Now, another thing that we are is like when we onboard a VA, it's an ongoing partnership with us. So we actually have a lifetime guarantee. If that VA doesn't work out, underperforms, or whatever it is, you're now vibing with that VA, we'll replace that VA at no cost. But more than that, more important is that we actually help with your SOPs and managerial process. Because if it's your first time managing a VA, one mistake is that they think they can just like go ahead and hire a virtual assistant and then everything magically like just works out, right? So we want to make sure that you do everything properly to maximize the efficiency of that VA. When it comes to like showing you our processes, our SOPs in place, our back end, how we do our FAQs and all that stuff. And we help them actually build that. We actually send our own templates that they can copy if they want or improve on they want. And we have an ongoing support. Even like some hosts that, let's say, for example, like 4 months ago, they own property. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're not doing co hosting, right? The VA goes to us, asks questions. We're always there as a partner. It's more like a partnership with us. So great question, by the way, Austin. That's
Yeah, just to add to that, I think Austin also had a question about whether we own the VA or not.
oh
So
yeah,
we went with the model where we don't own the VA, because that is the highest retention rate for VAs if they don't feel that they're owned by an agency. So when we onboard the VA, they become your full-time employee, and we make them feel that, hey, you are now in Austin's team, right? So the growth of Austin's team is your growth as well. You're not being owned by an agency, meaning you're not being shared by other companies, right? Because that certain model is a lot more profitable, but I would say it has the least retention rate, where VAs just quit, right? Because it feels transactional to them, where this is just a job. I'm not growing from this because I'm owned by an agency. So
Yeah,
for us, we
because
don't
at
own
the
the
end of the
VA.
day, sorry to interrupt. At the end of the day, you're their boss, not, let's say, me. That they're intentionally working for me. So if something maybe happens, they're going to say, "Oh, well, I'm going to go talk. Let me ask Jesse first." Right?
There's no accountability. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. So do they
yep.
pay? Do they kind of pay you like a retaining fee every month to keep the VA? I would assume that's probably how it works, or something like that, because you got to get paid for your services.
Yes, so it's just a flat rate for us versus an agency, just like what I mentioned, where they own the VA, they get a portion of the salary of the VA. It's usually 50-60% of the salary. We don't do it that way. We just have a flat rate that we charge. And so what happens is that if you provide raises or incentives to your VA, full-time VA, we don't get anything from that. We just have a flat rate. So they still feel that their salary is theirs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does
One
that
reason I like
vary?
what?
Sorry,
The,
I was like, does
the
that vary? I was just curious.
The salary or the
Sorry.
flat rate?
The flat rate, like, does it vary based on like the
No.
specific
One
type of
one
VA?
price. One price
Just
right
one
now.
fee.
Yeah, I know eventually we're gonna raise that price because we're very competitive right now. If you guys find out our pricing, we're very very competitive. But we're just trying to get our name out there. We've only been doing this for a year, but we might raise the price. We'll see. But the ones who already got a hold of that flat rate, we're never gonna change that. We're very relationship based, so we don't like charging them more eventually. So they get stuck on that flat rate forever.
Even
Yeah.
when they get new VAs, because they're already locked in on that price for
Yeah.
us. Just to give a summary, like a normal operations VA would cost you about 699 a month for a full time position, which is 40 hours a week, basically 9 hours with an hour break. So that's the full cost.
So let's say now I get my 40-hour VA from you guys. Like they mentioned, this pricing is subject to change, but for this episode, we'll say you said like around 700, right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what it would cost me per week, and they give me 40 hours, right?
40 hours. Yep.
Yeah, I
A
mean
month. That's
that's competitive.
700 a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very, very competitive.
yeah,
Yes.
we have we pay
Normally,
we have sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We have I have 5 or 6 VAs, and we pay them all uh more than that. So like that's a competitive price, and they're running a VA agency. So like you'd be silly not to give them a call, especially if you have no experience hiring a VA. Luckily, it worked out for me. I did the first time I hired my first VA, I did a very extensive process, and she came out very, very well, very, very capable. I did not flop, but I could see, based on what you guys mentioned earlier, all those things that could have potentially gone wrong, which I kind of avoided those potholes. Luckily, I would say. So I would say, this kind of labor is already so cheap that you shouldn't try and figure out how to do it on your own, and realize that once you just put one into to play that's very, very capable, it's going to skyrocket your business 700 a month, 1,000 a month, whatever. I mean, you're getting rid of all these tasks that taking up your time, and what are your time worth? So that's why they should call you guys. Two reasons I like this for you guys specifically is because you actually have skin in the game. So you guys do co-hosting and you manage a bunch of properties, right? So like, what does that mean? It means you know how to train the people that you're training to give to the operator, because you do it yourself. So you speak the same language. I think I've seen a lot of these agencies out there that maybe they're just general, right? They don't niche down into something. And I think that's where you guys are different, because you guys are niche down into the STR space. So you can tailor that VA skill set, train them. And then what I would do if I were you guys, you don't have to openly admit this. This is what I would do. I would cherry pick the really good ones for my own business. And then, obviously all of them are going to be really good, but I would take, okay, that one's like a super A player. Like they're coming on our
we're
code.
already doing that.
Yeah. I mean, why you'd be crazy not to. I mean, just whether you want to admit it or not.
Just full transparency.
Yeah.
We're,
Well,
we're
well,
already we're
well.
already on it. Yep. Yep.
So, I mean, elaborate more, because I want to make sure that I completely understand this. So, if I'm going to you and I'm getting a VA from you, I'm paying technically right this second, I'm paying $699 a month.
Right.
Is that including the VA's pay,
Yes.
or that's
That's including the VA pay. Yep.
That's the
so?
all-in cost.
So what do
So
you,
the break.
so?
Yeah, the breakdown of that is $500. $500 is the starting salary of the VA, and then $199 is the flat rate, very small flat rate that we get, regardless of what VA you get, right? So,
But every
and
month
if you
forever. for the
That's
time you
forever. That's
have the VA?
199 forever if you're locked in. Even if we raise the price, which we will, I'm pretty sure. If anyone's gonna be listening to this podcast a year from now, I'm pretty sure we've raised the price. But yeah, right now it is 199.
So what
So
if
okay, so if I get a VA from you this month, so is it 199? Is it going to be 699 every month to you, or
No,
like
so again,
so it's a one time fee is what you're saying?
no. So the one great question. So the
So
one
I want to
ninety
make sure I
nine is kind of like
understand.
an auto pay that you set up via Stripe. We use the
Mhm.
Stripe platform. So yeah, that one you can set up the 199 as an auto payment via card or bank or whatever you want to do. That's what we get. Now the $500 starting salary is what you pay the VA directly, because again, you are the main employer of that VA, and we want to keep it that way because that's the major retention rate for VAs is if they feel that you are the actual, instead of us paying the VA, they still feel that they're part of the agency, if that makes sense. So our clients are the ones who are paying the VA directly. Usually at end of the month, you can pay that $500 salary. If you want to do biweekly, just like in the US, you can do so as well.
So what
So the
happens when
one
Matt
nine
gets his
okay.
VA from you and he says, "Man, this VA is just totally kicking ass, and I'd like to give them a raise, and I'm okay with paying them more and paying you more, or something like that, because $700 just doesn't do this VA justice. They should get paid." So let's say
Yeah.
he decides instead of 500, he wants to pay them 700, and he's okay with the extra that goes to you. No big deal, or what?
Yeah,
No
no
big.
big deal. So basically, Matt, you can talk to the VA. Hey, I want to give you a raise, and you just provide that raise. So
So you're on a
you can just get
subscription service with you guys, really, and then if I get rid of my VA, you'll replace them. But if I
mhm,
just want to stop and I want to get rid of my VA
just
completely,
cancel.
then we end. So I
Yep.
want to. I did the math real quick for everybody here because I don't think they're gonna understand the value because I feel like this is very valuable. So I did the math on this, and if the VA is working 160 hours, which is 40 hours a week in 4 weeks, that's $4.36 an hour.
Yep.
That's fucking insanity. That's the stuff you guys are looking for on onlinejobs.ph. $3 to $4 an hour. So if you could find a VA that's trained by these two gentlemen here, ready to go,
Ready to
especially if
go.
you're using similar systems as them, such as Hospitable, and I'm assuming they use Price Labs and things like that, you're
Yes.
only paying $4.36 an hour for peace of mind.
Right.
Yep. For 80
Exactly.
to 90% of your time back, really.
Mic drop.
Yep.
Essentially, that's one co-host. Honestly,
Less than
if
one
you
co-host,
think
really.
about it, like one co-host will probably give you what, 500 to like $1,000 a month. So that's essentially just one co-host. Honestly, like it's well worth it. Honestly, like to scale, be scalable.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I think that's a good. I mean, I think that's it's a lot cheaper than some places I've seen. I've seen a lot of places where, like you're saying, the agency owns them and they're charging $9-10 an hour.
Yeah, it's
But
Um,
they get
basically
$5 off of
that's
that per hour.
yeah, I mean, which is really it's kind of like, I mean, highway robbery, really.
it's
I
more
mean,
profitable. Don't get me wrong, but the retention rate is so transactional that way. We want to
mhm,
build a reputation differently.
yeah.
So that's why we went with ours. Like
Well, and
very
people forget about subscription services though too. So
right.
I mean, the odds that I might have fired, Jackass and I don't have a VA anymore and I'm still paying you guys because I'm a dumbass and my VA didn't cancel it because I fired her, pretty good. So when you say, since you guys are experts, let's just say in VAs, what would be a good time for somebody when they're starting their co's business to hire a VA? Because it seems like to me, based on what you were saying, is that you guys hired him right off the bat. I mean, but I maybe because you had your other business you exited from, and I'd also like to know about that too. But I mean, we only have so much time. But
Yeah.
yeah, so when would be a good time for somebody to do that?
JT, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, of course. Me and Jesse, right? My favorite book is 10x is better than 2x. So when we actually got into the short-term rental space, we always had a mind of like, I need to be scalable. So we actually hired our first VA on the first, I think, three properties that we have. Um, so we grew into our team, right? I'm not gonna mention names, but like actually provided a client that actually had 60 properties, and they were so overwhelmed. I'm like, I need help. Obviously, the learning curve on that is a lot higher, just because we're essentially providing you a whole team at that point. You can not one VA can handle 60 properties. It's a lot harder to transition that, but we still made it work. We helped them with all the processes, but that took a lot of work, right? Now, For us personally, I would say, if you ask me, I would say 3 or 4 properties is when you want to train that VA. Because here's the thing too, right? Most of the work is on your first VA, because that's where you're going to develop your processes. That's how you're going to go train that VA, build out all your management processes. And you want to do that at 3 or 4 properties and not at 15 or 20, because then the next VA that comes in, your VA is now training that VA. It's not, you're more hands off. So it's just basically like, I think that's the ideal number. I wouldn't suggest on one property, obviously, but I think 3 to 5 is when you want to probably want to get your first VA.
Yeah, and you have to know what you're doing first, right? If you have one or two properties, you don't know what you're doing, right? Like you're
Exactly.
just learning. So you need to learn first before you try and bring somebody on. So like I think I agree with you. I would say probably like 5 to 10. But you need to get punched
Right.
in the face a number of times so you can learn these lessons. So when the VA comes, at least you still are not going to know what you're doing at 5 properties, but at least you'll know 60%
Yeah.
of what you're doing versus if you
Yeah.
just get a co-host property, like I'm going to get a VA to do all the work. Well, you're going to fail
Right.
anyways because you don't know what you're doing. So I agree
Right.
with you. I'd say 5 to 10. Once you start getting in the weeds and the messages are bogging you down, and
Right.
you need to be up at 10 o'clock at night, and you need to answer those messages when you first start, right? Like you have to do that stuff first, and there's no
You
avoiding
have
the
to go
hard.
through
So
what
then
we
once you
all
do
went
that,
through.
then you bring the VA
Yeah.
on, but you got to take some hits first. That's my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah. There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
Good point, Austin. There's no shortcut on the experiencing those things, because that's how you grow, right? And that's how you understand what you need for your team. So a
The
hundred
man
percent
that learns to fish can feed the village.
The VA is
exactly.
only as
So
good as your processes. So if you don't know your processes, the VA will not know it.
Right.
that's a good call.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean we got to wrap it up. I maybe we'll be doing this again. I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys getting on. I mean, there's a lot more to uncover because I still want to go back to like the business you exited from and all those things, um, which also had to do with VAs. So not just VAs for short-term rentals. Everybody can use VAs in all kinds of businesses, or employees is what we like to call them here.
Yep.
So if you guys could just let everybody know where to find you, how to get a VA from you if needed, or whatever the case may be, whatever you want to share for everybody to look for you at, and you can DM me all those things too, like
Sure.
the
Yeah.
way
So
that Billy
we're
showed
we're
us.
all over social media. We're STR Super VA on Instagram and Facebook, and then our email is info@strsuperva.com. And we're very very relationship based, JT and I. So even if you guys just have questions at all, happy to always just provide value and just answer those questions, even if you're not getting a VA, right? Because I feel like a lot of people should have VAs, especially when they're just starting, right? And we want to change the negative connotation on VAs and put a light on that because they're amazing employees. So
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I know you dropped where to find you at, but I want to go back one more thing. I had one more thing come to my mind when you were talking. What like is there any do you have any recommendations? And I'm thinking about just our business in general. I want to make sure that something's important to me is make sure that everybody is down with the culture and everybody enjoys doing what they do every day, and I think we do a pretty good job of it. But for those people that maybe have multiple VAs, do you have any advice or any things that you can put into your company to improve the culture to where they really enjoy working there? Do you have any tips, tricks, advice of like maybe something we could do weekly, or just making sure
Right.
that they really, even though they're in a different country, they feel a part of our organization, they feel a part of our family? Do you have any tips that we can use in our business to just improve from a cultural perspective?
Jesse, you want to take this one?
sure, yeah. So every Fridays we have a team meeting, right? It's more of like it's not just a meeting. It starts with a team bonding session or like a team building session where we have trivias, and those trivias are always different every week, and we try to be very creative with that. Even though with 13 VAs, we still have the time to kind of still do that, and it's become a tradition for us. So this is one of those things, but also mainly you don't want to overwork them, right? So if they're working 40 hours, you have to respect that. And if they need to go on overtime, right, you have to ask that VA, and they have to say yes, right? If they can't, you have to respect that boundary, and you have to pay them for their OT. And that's why part of the templates that we send out to clients is that there's a computation on what their OT hourly rate is, so that you can pay them extra for in the case that you need them to work extra. But at the end of the day, you have to respect that. they have to have vacations, they have to have sick days, they have to have 2 days off every week. And there's an employee handbook by default that we send out that basically has all of that, because we want to make sure that the clients are able to take care of their VAs in that way, and that's why we provide that handbook as well. But that's something that definitely is very important to them as well, is that they're not overworked. And I know some people have their VAs working 16 hours a day, and I feel like that's just unacceptable, because they're just like regular employees. So yeah.
Yeah. Just to add to that team building, by the way, that's a really fun. Even I and Jesse were actually having fun there, because normally when we do trivia or whatever type of game we do for that first 10 15 minutes, we actually give rewards to the winners. Sometimes it's just as easy as $10 reward for that. So everyone is participating, everyone is happy, and then everyone is just it just builds a lot of team building. We do that once a week. So that's one of the things that's been a tradition for us, because we did that with our previous company. It's one of those things. So rarely do our like sometimes our employee, even though they're sick, they want to attend the meeting, and we're the ones like, it's okay, you can, no, I want to attend the meeting, because they want to be in that team building first 15 minutes, and then after that it's just a quick rundown of what we did that week. Sometimes our operations manager tells some announcement, and that's how we praise our VAs as well. Let's say, oh, by the way, shout out to, let's say, Elaine, for handling this particular problem. You're a rock star, appreciate that. That actually goes a long way when you have all those and then very constructive criticism, but we always start with the positives first, like praising them on how they dealt with problems, and then going into like, by the way, this is how we can improve this particular problem. I think we can improve it this way. We trust you guys. No one is perfect, right? But that's how you actually build rapport with your team.
Yeah. Okay.
Call it
Cool.
the sandwich effect.
Right.
Yeah, I love
Good,
it.
bad, good. Yeah,
Yep.
so I am gonna wrap, but I do have one more question. Didn't one of you guys buy like a Ferrari or something?
I don't know. That's Jesse.
I
So
seen a
yeah,
picture of one
I'm
of
a
your
used car
guys'
guy,
cars.
That's
so
Jesse and cars in his.
just some financial mistakes here and there, but yeah.
You still have that financial mistake?
I
Not
have a couple
anymore.
financial mistakes, yes. So
You have a couple kids, huh? I'm just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. Awesome. If you guys need a VA, I mean, check them out. I mean, you can't beat $4.36 an hour. That's like, I put the whole $6.99 in, divided it by the 160. So
For now. For now.
for now,
Yeah.
yeah. So you better act
now.
fast. This only lasts for
For now.
14 days as of this episode airing on the 21st of August. So you got 14 days because this episode's airing tomorrow. But
Yeah. Thanks for having us, Matt, Austin. It's been really, really fun. I know you guys are very successful in your own right. Matt, I love your series. I always follow. I get addicted now to your series, and my
I
wife.
got
Same
something
here.
new for you
My
too. I need
brother.
you. I need to
We
talk
love
to you
that
about it.
particular series. Even the comments in TikTok that we watch, it's so funny.
Oh,
Like
you saw him on TikTok? Oh yeah, I've been talking shit to everybody. My wife's like, "Why do you comment?" I'm like, "It's good for the algorithm."
I know. So,
Thanks
and
for having us,
Austin,
guys.
I
We
know
had
we
so much
haven't
fun. So
Yeah, we
spoke personally,
appreciate it.
Austin. Maybe off cam, I can get to know you more. So hopefully
Yeah,
connect.
for sure,
Right.
for sure. All right, Austin, let it
All
have
right.
it.
Thank y'all for listening. Peace.